Today we're talking about the Daytona that we saw in the leaks already, but it comes with a twist. This is the new Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 126502 in Rolesium with a full Grand Feu enamel dial. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, so grab a coffee, this one is for the real watch nerds. Let's start simple. At first glance, this looks like a steel Daytona. 40mm, classic oyster steel bracelet, same proportions, same presence on the wrist. Inside you've got the caliber 4131, one of the best automatic chronograph movements out there, 72 hours of power reserve, super reliable, -2 to +2 seconds accuracy. So far very familiar. But then Rolex starts layering in the details. First, Rolesium. If you've been around Rolex, you've probably heard that term before. Steel mixed with platinum. But here's the twist. The case and bracelet are oyster steel, but the bezel ring and the caseback ring are solid platinum. That's it. Subtle, almost hidden. And then Rolex does something even crazier. They give this Daytona an open caseback for a steel watch, which almost never happens. Or actually for a steel watch it has never happened so far. Only a handful of Daytonas have ever had this, full platinum models and the Le Mans pieces. So right away Rolex is telling you this is not a normal Daytona. Now let's talk about the dial, because this is where things get serious. This is a full Grand Feu enamel dial, not lacquer, not painted, not porcelain style. Real enamel, fired at around 800 degrees, layer by layer. And here's the insane part. It's not one piece, it's 4 separate enamel discs, each fired individually, then assembled together. I honestly can't think of another watch doing this. And the result? This deep, creamy, almost milky white dial that will never fade, never age, never change. It's basically permanent. And if you're deep into Daytona history, this will remind you of something. The so-called Albino Daytonas. Ultra rare vintage pieces with fully white dials. No black contrast, no registers popping out. Some of those sold for over $1 million. And this feels like a modern interpretation of that idea. Not a reissue, but a nod. Now let's move to the bezel. Because Rolex didn't stop at the dial. This is a brand new Cerachrom bezel, but not like we've seen before. Instead of the usual black ceramic, you get this anthracite grey, almost metallic look. And it actually feels metallic in person. That's because Rolex developed a completely new composite, mixing zirconia with tungsten carbide. So you get something harder, more scratch resistant, but also visually more dynamic. And here's a detail only hardcore fans will notice. The tachymeter scale is now vertical, not inverted. Just like the vintage Daytonas from the 60s and 80s. Again, subtle nods everywhere. So what is this watch really? Because it's not just a steel Daytona, it's not a full precious metal piece either, it's somewhere in between. Kind of like an insider Daytona. A watch that looks simple until you actually understand what is going on. Now let's talk price. $57,800 for this watch. For a mostly steel watch, it's a pretty aggressive pricing, and it might look even more steep in comparison to the normal steel Daytonas. But once you start breaking down this new model, the enamel dial, the new bezel technology, the platinum elements, the open caseback, you realize this is not a standard production piece. And that's confirmed by the fact that this is an off-catalog watch, same like the day date. So again, availability is basically non-existent, and I could imagine that even fewer of these pieces will go to the ADs, so it will only be allocated to the ultra VIP clients. And honestly, this might be one of the most important Daytona releases in years, because it opens doors. Enamel dials on sports watches, new bezel materials, open caseback on a steel watch, more experimental Rolex designs without losing the core DNA. For me, this watch is very simple to describe. It's a Daytona for people who already have a Daytona. It's subtle on the outside, but incredibly deep once you understand it. Let me know what you think. Is this the coolest modern Daytona, or just too complicated for what a Daytona should be? And as always, thanks for watching.